What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Big Five Pod, episode number 138. I'm co-host Kyle Morello. Next to me, co-host Jake Copestick. Cope, we just had our Super Bowl on Saturday. This is now Monday night of us recording. How are you? I mean, I just saw you, but how was it for you? We're going to get all into it. Don't worry. But how are you?
Yeah, I took a big time nap yesterday.
I don't blame you.
Right smack in the middle of the 1 o'clock football slate. It's a fun day, but a long day. Probably didn't get home until almost 12:30 Sunday morning after getting there in the parking lot at 12:30 p.m. Saturday afternoon. Yeah. So it was a long day, but a fun day. We'll get into it, but it was a great day hoops. We got treated to a buzzer beater, streamers, rollouts, everybody in one spot. It was look, for us, that was our Super Bowl. It was great to be there. Water wall hoops. It was a good day, but a lot of rest was much needed Sunday. Also Sunday, I made sure I was on time. Shout out to the Broncos. 11-1, 10 straight 11-2. Wins. Kyle. Sorry, 11-2, correct.
I'm hating, so I'm going to cut that second loss.
Well, the Jets have missed the playoffs for the 15 straight years after they just laid down to the Miami Dolphins, Kyle, the Dolphins. MetLife was a ghost town. There might have been more people at Xfinity Mobile Arena Saturday night than there was at MetLife Stadium.
Well, we'll get into that. I'm not entirely sure about that.
Regardless, 10 straight wins, 11-2. How about, Kyle, the number one seed in the AFC, the Denver Broncos? Big win against the Raiders.
You're tied for the number one seed.
Well, no, they're not. They own the tiebreaker over common opponents. And the thing is, you interrupted me, Kyle. What I was going to say was it was a big win for them because they beat the Raiders. They've now beat them twice. The Patriots lost to the Raiders week 1. So although they have the same record, that clinched the Broncos for having a tiebreaker over common opponents as of this moment.
Fair enough.
So if the playoffs ended today, they would be the number one seed in the AFC.
And audience, I'm not, well, I guess I am maybe intentionally a little bit being rude to Cope. I didn't mean to cut him off, but I am a hater at heart for anything that he does mostly, and that includes the Broncos, although I hate the Patriots more, so I'll give you that much, although I do like Drake May, but I don't have a lot to say about the Jets, Cope. 3-10.
Then don't. I think it's a great way to just dive right into the Big Five Classic.
I was in sixth grade
rather than waste our breath on the Jets.
I was in sixth grade the last time they made the playoffs. So, yeah, that's all I'm going to say about that. Anyway, Cope, Big Five Classic review. First, we'll go to your quick hitters because I know you have one, and I know it's about the Big Five Classic, but not about this Big Five Classic. So grab that ball, run that break. What do you got?
Yeah, so let's touch on the women's. We did this last year as well. We, of course, are going to go over the women's Big Five Classic results while we're here. First, Kyle, Penn beating LaSalle in the fifth place game, 65-52. In the third place game, I want to get to the championship as well. We'll also make sure we highlight Aaron Bracey's and Aaron Bracey and Mel Greenberg's MVP award for that game as well. So, Drexel 59-52 over Temple in the third place game. You then had Penn beating LaSalle that was the fifth place game. Jeez, I'm so sorry.
Take your time.
Maybe I should have slept more yesterday. After a long day. Penn 65-52 over LaSalle in the third place game, and then Villanova taking down St. Joe's in the Holy War. We had a Holy War somebody played the
Somebody had a Holy War championship.
Villanova 76, St. Joseph 70 in the championship of the Women's Big Five Classic. And it was Bryn McCurry who got the Mel Greenberg MVP award of the Women's Big Five Classic. So shout out to Mel Greenberg. That was awesome that they did that. They did the Jack Shore Very Good Hoops Award, the Men's Classic that we'll talk about. But that's it, Kyle. We'll do for quick hitters. We need to make sure that we give the Women's Big Five Classic their shine as well.
Absolutely. And second year of that event at Finner Pavilion. So Nova winning on their home court. Although, Cope, is that considered a home game for them? Do you know?
I don't know.
A neutral site game, even though I don't know. It's not a designated home game, obviously, but
I don't know. I think they still had to be in the middle of the court. I don't think they put a sticker
no
over it. So for all intents and purposes,
it was a home game.
It was a home game.
Yeah. Anyway, shout out to the Women's Big Five Classic. Second year that did that. Awesome that they're doing that. And, hopefully we'll be back again next year. All right, Cope. the Big Five Classic. Let's go over it. Before we go over any results of any of these games, which of course we will get to, and Villanova winning their first Big Five Classic championship, of course we'll talk about. But we got to talk about all the other things around the event. First and foremost, I think what people will look at the most is attendance, because that's the most important thing when you're at these events. Copa was down this year, and pretty significantly. Year one, and I'm assuming this is paid attendance, but year one, 15,215 was the official attendance number. Year two, down a little bit, 14,108. This year, Cope, 10,361. Not great. Not great to see it decline, so significantly after a slight, decrease in year two from year one. But here's the thing I want to talk about the most, and I think we're both going to, probably be pretty animated about this. And not that I want to start off on a negative note per se, but it is something worth noting. We have talked a little bit about the future of this event, although we didn't talk about it necessarily last week when we had on Mike Solkis, but we've talked about it with ourselves, with Aaron Bracey, some of our Big Five, fellow members. And one of those, Jeff Nyberg, put out an article later last week about the potential future of this event, specifically involving Villanova and what they may decide to do, what Kevin Willard may decide to do with the administration, with the future of this event, and if it's worth it for them to continue doing this event, and also in the scope of the other teams as well. But I think most of the focus of that was on Villanova in terms of scheduling, dollars, everything you can imagine. But I will say, Cope, when it comes to attendance, the one student section that showed out and packed out was the Villanova student section. So we can go into talk about the future of the event and Jeff's article in a little bit, and I'll get to you on that. But I do want to point that out too, that even though Villanova's getting the question marks right now, we do have to be fair and point out the fact that they packed the house for the championship. Didn't matter if they were going to play Penn, Temple, Drexel, Salle, or St. Joe's, which we all thought at the beginning of the season. They were going to pack out, and they did. I believe they were also the only school to bus down students from any of their campuses. And obviously they're the furthest campus away, but that plays a part in it too. And I'm going to let you get to that with the administrators. But Cope, or excuse me, it might have been only Penn that provided buses. They didn't have a packed student section, to be completely honest with you. And that's something else we can get into. Villanova, just their fans show up, and I think that's a testament to their fan base and their dedication to this. But Cope, does it concern you that despite the fact that everyone's giving Villanova crap in the media, fans mostly, about their potential involvement in this event maybe not happening in the future, what does it say for them to have the most packed fan base, and what does it say about the other schools' fan bases and student sections that, other than St. Joe's, which they were sitting behind us, I thought they were very good, but other than St. Joe's, there's pretty much nobody there.
Yeah, it's a shame to see, and I'll get into how I think we, like the administrators and the schools, can do more here. But before, yes, the one positive was Villanova. Like, that was packed out like it was a Big East game that they host down there. That looked like a student section that we're going to see when UConn and St. John's play at Xfinity Mobile Arena in conference play. So it was awesome that they had showed out. Maybe it wasn't like that the last 2 years because they were not in the championship game, especially that first year when they played Drexel in the fifth place game as a nationally ranked team, but their students were awesome. Now, the game was a blowout, so it dissipated pretty quickly in the second half, I would say. But to start that game, they were loud. They were doing the swag surfing. Like, there was a lot of people there, and that was awesome. But I think for any game, especially a championship game, if this event continues in its format and Villanova is playing in a championship game every year, they're going to continue to pack the place. They are. And that's awesome to see. As far as the other student sections go, Kyle, there just needs to be more done, I think, on the case of athletic departments and administrators. We see on Twitter, and I want to shout out Ryan MBA, who was asking St. Joe's people and students to reach out to him and see what everybody was doing. But to not bus kids down for, like, this is the only time you have to do it all year. If you maybe you buy, I don't think there's enough tickets in some of these smaller arenas to be like, oh yeah, St. Joe's is going to get a dedicated amount of tickets for a game at Temple, or they probably have the space to do it, but I haven't seen that, like, at least in this iteration of the Big Five, where schools are giving an allotted amount for the students of the other team. Maybe that's something we try to do. I mean, it's not like the Liacouras Center has been packed for these games. The last time the Liacouras Center was packed like crazy was the Houston game in the whiteout a handful of years ago. And then there was the Villanova game that same year. That was the last iteration of the old Big Five. And it was loud and pretty much filled to the brim. But that was it. Like, maybe there's something we can do there. Maybe you try to incentivize students to go with maybe an allotment. It doesn't have to be much, but like, you look at a lot of empty seats at a place maybe like the Liacouras Center or the Palestra, and you'd like to see more people there. Perhaps there's something you can do there. You can bus them to the away game. You can provide some tickets. But for this especially, Kyle, for the sake of this event, we can't provide transportation up and back. I remember when I was a freshman at LaSalle, and Ashley Howard's first year to play nationally ranked Villanova after they won the second national championship in 3 years. Saturday game on ESPN. I think I paid a couple bucks to do it, but LaSalle busts the kids up and back. Why can't we do it one time? We can't just do it once. Excuse me. Temple will do this for every football game. And they can't.
I was going to say, when we were students, they would have buses that go down to the link.
They'd have buses all over Broad Street. They have them at Morgan Hall. They down, J&H. They have them everywhere.
It's in the same place.
One time.
It's in the same place.
It's literally the same. We can't do it one time. You can't incentivize students to want to go to these games, because they miss the Temple students especially, and the St. Joe's kids as well. I don't want to sound like I'm just harping on Temple here. They missed a great game. And I don't know if you want to throw something in. Maybe it's like a meal ticket, or you try to do an alumni event before. I know ST8, the School of Sport, Tourism, and Hospitality Management, where I graduated from, they do alumni events all the time. Maybe you try to do that. Maybe you try to say, hey, to a Fox School of Business or SCHM or somebody on campus, maybe you do an alumni event there. You try to just bring more people as you can organically. But the attendance was disappointing. There's not a way around it. And to see it decline the way it did, this year by that many people, it's disappointing. But I think there's other things we can do. And another thing that I saw somebody reply to Ryan NBA with was, at St. Joe's, like, there was no online tickets. You had to go pick them up somewhere. I miss having a physical ticket, but I know Temple doesn't even do it anymore. Temple's all mobile. Temple's all digital.
I love the physical ticket, but it's obviously a lot more convenient for people to get digital tickets.
And there's nothing we can do there to just make it easier and more accessible for people, that you can just, from a couple taps on your phone, you can claim a student ticket that you can scan when you get there. I see stuff like that. And again, like a pregame event. So, maybe not everybody's of age that you can have a happy hour at now Stateside Live. Excuse me. I almost called it by its former name. But again, what about an alumni event? A young alumni event? How about, I know, schools will do that, not just an alumni event, but for your recent graduates. Like, there's nothing we can do there to kind of dress this up. They have spaces to do it. You have the assembly room upstairs at Xfinity Mobile. They have bars and food halls kind of on the side of the building that you can do this. Maybe you rent out a club,
even at
suite.
Even at Live Casino, they have the upstairs, which you don't need to be 21 to get to.
Right,
or Rivers.
I think there's stuff we can do as institutions and athletic departments on all sides to bring more people in and dress this up. Because you had Villanova, and that was it. And I was a little disappointed by Drexel as well, because guess what? The last 2 years they played the fifth place game. The last 2 years they showed up. Now, they played Penn last year, and they played a nationally ranked Villanova the year before. But the Drexel student section sold out the last 2 years. Didn't so much this year, and I understand they played in the third place game for the fifth place game for the third straight year. But I think there's more that we can do, because that was really disappointing. Especially some of the overhead pictures. I saw Pat Dallahan in our Big Five group chat had a overarching kind of video of the whole place. You had our guy Anthony DeBundo take a picture from up high. Like, there's a lot of empty seats, Kyle. There was a lot of dark seats because there was no butts in those seats. So the attendance was disappointing. But we've harped on this multiple times, I feel like, every year with this event, and even dating back to the old Big Five. Like, there's more that can be done. We can get creative like as athletic departments to dress this up, but the effort has to be there like for them first.
Yeah. And I was going to say too, like, we're talking about student sections right now, and I think it makes up a big portion of the energy because I think energy in any college arena feeds off of the student section. And I know for, a larger arena, it's harder, of course, but it's more than just the student sections. I mean, the lower bowl was, sometime at some points it was larger than others. Obviously, the championship, there was more people. Even the Temple St. Joe's game a little bit too, but there were still like waves of empty seats, like you'd mentioned, Cope. Waves of empty seats in the lower bowl. It's kind of embarrassing. And then you look up and you see people up in the stands, and maybe they don't sell tickets up there and they put everyone in the lower bowl. Like, I think that's a feasible solution, because it just will want it to look better on TV. It'll sound better on TV and in person, obviously. Like, I feel like there's a lot that can be done. But also sometimes, Cope, I'm going to be honest, like sometimes I do feel a little bit, not hopeless, but lacking hope for sure. Just because of everything with college sports right now. And that's trickling down to college basketball and also the Big Five with, player movement being as frequent as it is, especially inter Big Five movement. Now, since we've started this podcast and since the transfer portal's become what it's become, we've seen more inter Big Five transfers than I think has been in the history of the Big Five before 2022, 2023. So I think there's that. The teams haven't been as good. There hasn't been a team to make the tournament since we've started this podcast. Since Villanova made the Final Four in 2022. Like, that is a factor as well. It's just the excitement of the quality of teams. And of course, we've gotten great games. We got 2 great games this Big Five Classic. We got a buzzer beater for the second time in 3 years at the Big Five Classic, in the third place game specifically. Villanova won the championship this time. St. Joe's won it the last 2 years, and those are what I would say is probably the 2 biggest fan bases in the Big Five. I think that's fair to say at this point. I think Temple's kind of interest is waning a little bit, and sucks because we're Temple grads, but there's a lot right going on in this event. And I think sentiment that we've seen online since Saturday and during Saturday was that people who were there had fun. It's getting people there. And there's a lot that probably can be done. There also might be some things that just are out of our control, unfortunately.
Yeah, and the success of the teams as well. I mean, in a bottom line business, you just brought up the bottom line. Nobody's made the tournament since we started this podcast, and the last Big Five team to make the NCAA tournament that's not named Villanova was Drexel in 2021 before they were a Big Five member. The success hasn't been there. And quite frankly, like, you go to games, Kyle, Nova last year had its moments where it wasn't packed all the time. And this year it has been. Feels like there's some excitement. They're on a winning streak. They haven't lost since opening night against BYU, but you go to Temple, Kyle, and the student section is not great sometimes. There's a lot of times it's really sporadic besides the band that's there. And you go to St. Joe's, and I love it. We have the diehard sim behind us with the drum and the hard hats. Like, that's awesome. The 54th Airborne, the diehard showed up, and they'll show up to all the games. I'm gonna be a cop in St. Joe's tomorrow at Hagen, and they're gonna be there. But that student section's not totally packed all the time, Kyle. You go to LaSalle, it's the same thing. It was a great opening night. I'm sure it was great for the Nova game.
There's been moments, yeah.
Drexel, it's when there's a big fight, when there's a city team on campus, they're excited. Other games, really not so much, Kyle. And then you see the same thing at Penn as well. I mean, I couldn't tell you the last time I saw the corners full for a college game that wasn't Penn State coming in there. And the student sections are lacking at times at Penn. So it's tough. I think the success of the teams, like, again, if you build it, they'll come. If you win, they'll come. It's just not happening right now. And that's the bottom line. That's not to throw shade at anybody, but it's a bottom line business, Kyle. It is. I feel like anywhere will support a winner.
Yeah.
So
I don't know if Kurt Cignetti's walking through the door for any of these Big Five programs that might need it. Of course, shout out to Indiana for getting the 1 seed in the college football playoff. And college football playoffs is another thing I would love to rant about, and how that might relate to college basketball in the future with, the selections and all that. That's a topic we can get into another time or maybe at the end. But yeah, it's winning cures all. It's what everybody says in high school sports, college sports, professional sports, any type of competition, even business too. I mean, if you count it as winning, if you know, like that's just what it is. So I hope that in the future it can get better. But then there's also the doubt about it. There even being a future for this event if Villanova decides that they no longer want to be in the Big Five, which seems like a possibility. And I really, really hope not, Cope, but it does seem like that is a possibility, right?
Yeah, I hope that they don't leave either. I mean, I guess there's a good segue that we can touch on Jeff's article a little bit in the stuff that he was bringing up. And we talked about the Spaces pregame Saturday before LaSalle and Drexel, but there's so many challenges here because you have Nova that plays. They do their Villanova challenge. So they host Duquesne, they host Queens, they host, a Sacred Heart and Old Dominion, teams like that. That's an easy way. They fulfill some bye games. The circle of life of college athletics moves on with those when you have some smaller teams come in and Villanova pays them a pretty penny to keep the lights on. So, bye games are part of the circle of life here. And then obviously Nova wants to play if they don't go to a Battle for Atlantis or something like that, which they very well could. You want a neutral site game against BYU. You want these games, they rattled off 3 home and homes when Kevin Willard got in there. Going to Wisconsin, going to Michigan. They're going to host Pittsburgh this year and go there next year. Like you need games like that to boost your resume. I think they're going to get plenty of them in the Big East. But, I mean, you've also seen the Big East in the last handful of years, like maybe get 3 teams in. So you need to insulate yourself with really good games. And the problem is these city games, in these Big Five games, these are a landmine for Villanova more so than they are a win that you can hang your hat on Selection Sunday. And it's a shame because I heard Jay Wright on the broadcast of the LaSalle Nova game say, like, you could go into the NCAA tournament as a Big Five team and nobody would hold the losses against the other Big Five teams against it because they knew how good they were. And they were that good. But these are landmine games for Villanova, Kyle. I mean, look, and there's evidence of that. A loss to St. Joe's 2 years ago. That team is with Tyler Burton and TJ Bamba. That team is teetering on the border. In their last 3 games, they needed to win at Providence, at Seton Hall, home against Creighton. They needed 2 of those 3 wins, and they only got 1. And perhaps they only needed that 1 win at Providence if they didn't lose to Drexel and they didn't lose to Penn. Perhaps they don't need 2 of those 3. Like we see, there's evidence of this even in the new format, that these games are problematic for Villanova and have potentially held them out of the NCAA tournament. So there's also challenges with scheduling. Again, if you're going to do a home and home, sometimes those dates are agreed on pretty quickly. And as you start to schedule, you also need to schedule these 3 games. And you need to make sure you block out a Saturday in December where you could travel somewhere if you wanted to play this triple header. So there's a whole lot that goes into it. Obviously, the money and the gate revenue of an extra home game complicates things as well. But what worries me the most, Kyle, is just listen to Kevin Willard's answers about the Big Five. At press conferences, Amy Fadul had him on, and he said, like, this is awesome, but we need to figure out how we can, we want to figure out how we can make it better. I'm not hearing like a gung-ho, like, this is awesome. Like, we should keep playing this.
Which is a contrast from
everything but that.
Other coaches, too, especially the newer ones. You know what I mean? Like Darius Nichols, Fran McCaffrey.
Somebody asked Zach Spiker about it, and he's like, we just got here.
Yeah.
We love this. We want to keep playing it, but we just got here. It's only our 3rd year.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We want it to be this way. The streamers, the tradition, the fact that no other city does this and every other large metropolitan area where this can be a thing, these teams duck each other for an opportunity to play something like this. I mean, it took multiple years for Georgetown and Maryland to drum up a home and home series with each other. Like Willard made that, obviously, and it was a 3-year thing, I think. I think it's going to be Georgetown and then at Maryland. It's only a 3 or 4 year deal they have. Any other large city can do this at multiple institutions, and they refuse to. Like, this is special. The streamers, the buzzer beater, like the amount of history. If you walk through the Palestra, like you're just enamored by the place. Like it's something that's worth keeping. But the almighty dollar, an ever-changing landscape where obviously money is more important than everything, and there's all sorts of strains and challenges with everybody, Kyle. It could prove difficult. I hope not. I'm going to knock on wood, but in a bottom line business as well, Kyle, I think in attendance, another attendance dip, if they decide to do this next year, like it might make our arguments, a little harder to stand by.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing too, just to wrap up this point, like the pomp and circumstance around it and in it is still awesome. The streamers, the rollouts, like all the introductions, the Big Five Hall of Famers, getting their shine too, although I wish there was more done for them, but still a cool part of it, getting inducted, during this event. I think that's a cool thing. All of it's still like fun. Like you you said, you don't get that anywhere else. There might be schools with certain traditions with other schools that are, rivalries, especially in conference play. Obviously, there's tradition there, but this is special because most of the time there's only been two schools in a conference. And a lot of that was Temple and St. Joe's. Obviously now it's the Salle and St. Joe's. But that's been it. It's just been those two. And then everyone else is in different conferences. They come together for this every year. Obviously, it used to be the round robin. Now it's this. It's cool. No one else has this. No other city has this, although maybe they should. But to see it potentially, to even talk about it potentially going away hurts. And I'm sure all the Big Five fans listening and, some of our counterparts in the media share the same sentiment as well. But not to beat a dead horse, praying it stays. Praying next year we can see an uptick in attendance. I mean, it was cool that it was on NBC Sports Philly this year instead of, NBC Sports Philly Plus or Peacock. I mean, it was on Peacock too, but, not just solely there. That matters. That matters a lot. So we'll see.
And if I could just say one last thing, Kyle. When we had, the thing that sticks with me is when we had Steve Donahue on and, Big Five lifer, grew up going to the games. How about the great story you told us as a, 6th, 7th grader? Going to his first game at the Palestra, place was rocking, coached in it for so long. Like in a great sports city like Philadelphia, which look is a pro sports city, but in a great sports city like Philadelphia, the Big Five is an incredibly unique thing with so much history that's part of the fabric of the great sports city of Philadelphia. Like it would be a disservice to like fans and appreciators to get rid of this, Kyle. But again, that's not what it's about. It's about this.
And it always will be.
As pretty much everything is.
Yeah. Couple quick shout outs before we move on to the actual games. Shout out to Alex Coffey of the Inquirer, who I feel like we don't usually talk about in our, fellow media members because she's covering a lot of different other things. But released an article. I read it on Friday. I think it released on Friday about the bond between coaches of the old Big Five when people showed up and actually cared a lot more. Even included Bill Harrion of Drexel, but talked about Phil Martelli, obviously, Fran Dunphy, John Chaney, had some mentions of Rolly Massimino in it. There's probably someone else I'm forgetting right now. I think there was a mention of Harry Litwack too, going way back. Just talking about the brotherhood and how they were friends off the court a lot of times, and they went through a lot of the same things and even sometimes went after the same recruits. And not that they were secretly rooting for themselves not to get a recruit, but they were happy for the coach of the other team, maybe not so for the program, for the coach of the other team that they were friends with, to land someone like that. Speedy Morris was mentioned in this as well. So, it was cool. I read it as I was going to bed on Friday, and perfect way to get hyped for Saturday's event, and to hopefully that's still there. It seems like to an extent it's still there. There's people who have coached with or against each other. You mentioned on the last episode, Cope, Fran McCaffrey and Kevin Willard having played each other numerous times in the MAC, in the Big Ten, once in the Big East when Kevin Willard was there before. So that was really cool. You have the West Virginia connection with Zach Spiker and Darius Nichols, which, you asked them about at the press conference. These guys, they're coaching against each other. They've probably played against each other in some capacity or coached a player in that example. So hopefully it's still there in some capacity and something that can be passed down from the old guard, as it was for the era of Phil Martelli, Fran Dunphy, Steve Donahue, and all of them. But speaking of one of those coaches, Cope, I'm gonna let you give this shout out because this was something that you talked to him about personally. This person, he mentioned the podcast by name, but there's a stat that you provided, so I'll let you do this one.
Yeah, I need to give a shout out, Kyle, to Dr. John Giannini. Gave me a phone call Friday night. What a nice man. Obviously a legendary basketball coach in this area at LaSalle, making the Sweet 16. Just finished up being the AD at Rowan pretty recently that I think we just covered last year or the year before, talking about his retirement, but doing such a great job on TV. Called me. We talked for a little bit, said he listens. They had a lot of very nice things to say about me and you, which, as he's preparing to broadcast 3 games Saturday, he didn't have to do. So that was super, super nice of him to give me some of his time Friday night. But he shouted us out on air, shouted out one of our stats that we had provided on last episode with that the fact that Fran McCaffrey and Kevin Willard had played 11 times, spanning 3 different schools. So shout out to Dr. John for that. Nice guy. Met him and Matt Martucci Saturday before the game. Both of them do such a great job broadcasting. Matt Martucci on the call for not only the Big Five triple header last couple of years along with Dr. John, but doing St. Joe's, and then Dr. John Giannini, of course, he sent me his schedule. This guy's going to be flying anywhere and everywhere along the Eastern Seaboard the next couple months, but working for USA Network and the A10 tournament as well. So that was awesome. Shout out to Dr. John Giannini. Very nice of him to give us a shout out there. That was pretty cool to hear, Kyle. The Big Five pod, the Big Five Classic.
Listen, you called me after that and told me about this. So I was, thrilled to hear it and shout out to Coach Dr. John Giannini for that. Obviously more than a coach as well, but that touched us for sure. That's pretty incredible when you have a legend like that who not only, gave us a shout out, but listens and recognized, kind of what we do here a little bit. So that's pretty cool. Definitely wanted to share that and give the love back, of course. All right, Cope, let's get into some games because we did have, besides everything around the event, we did have the event. And there was some really good basketball played. So why don't we get right into it? First and foremost, 5th place game, LaSalle holding off Drexel 69-64. And I say holding off because Drexel had a rough start to this game. They went 1 of 22 to end the half in the first half, 0 of 16 in that stretch. It was rough. But give them credit, they bounced back. They went into a 2-3 zone in the second half, and LaSalle couldn't figure it out. They got back within 2, I think, 2 or 3. But ultimately, LaSalle executed just enough at the end to get it done. Josiah Harris, awesome in this game, 21 points, 13 rebounds, second straight double-double. I think he had 10 of their first 12 points. It was just floater after floater after floater. It was pretty incredible, especially, he had struggled a little bit before this. The 5 previous games, he went scoreless in 2 of them, had 6 points each in the other 3. Didn't start a few of those games as well, so he's back in the starting lineup in this one. Played very, very well. Jaden Marshall also 15 points, 4 of 8 from the field, 2 of 4 from 3, so an efficient 15 for him. And Truth Harris, Cope, first game he played since opening night for LaSalle, where he just played 5 minutes, but 3 points, 6 assists, 1 turnover. And then for LaSalle, like I said, offensively rough. Eli Beard probably being the roughest. He didn't score in this one, 0 for 9 in this one. And Shane Blakely also 4 of 16, not great, but it was a game of 2 halves for both teams, is the simplest way to put it. Cope, how would you put this one?
Yeah, I'll start with LaSalle first and what the good was, and then I'll get into Drexel because we could split it into 2 halves, obviously, but the 1 half on, 1 half off thing for Drexel's unfortunately kind of been a theme with them. But I'll get into LaSalle first. You hit the nail right on the head. It was a much needed game for Josiah Harris. It was, with the 21 points, 13 rebounds, a second straight double-double. Look, there's ups and downs to any season, but it had hit him even as a veteran player who's been with Darius Nichols for now going on his third season. And the bounce back he had last week, even with the loss against Merrimack, and now was big because they're down some bodies. They have been. Jerome Brewer's out again. Bowen Beatty's out again. Noah Collier starts, but is still working his way back into being able to play a lot of minutes. So he didn't play very much. So his impact is very, very much needed, especially now, and he's risen to the occasion the last two games. So he was huge. You get another good game for Jade Marshall, who's the lone scorer on this LaSalle team that is in double digits. He's really been a nice surprise. Really, really been a nice surprise. Scoring the ball, been pretty reliable for him, 2 of 4 from the 3-point line. But importantly, Kyle, turnovers have been an issue for LaSalle. They bring Truth Harris in here, who, 18 minutes is great after he had been in a boot for, since opening night. He got hurt, and before the game was over, he was on the bench in a boot. So for him to be in a boot for that long, come back, give the Explorers 18 minutes. Sure, he only had 3 points, but more importantly than anything else, Kyle, 6 assists to 1 turnover. They needed another ball handler bad. To have Ashton Walker as a true freshman doing his thing with Eric Acker, there's a lot on Damon Strand's plate as a guy who seldom played at Albany last year, who with injuries has had to play a lot of minutes here. And he's done what he can, but it's critical that LaSalle was able to get a guy like Truth Harris back and get another ball handler back. Just to have an experienced guy off the bench, he can knock down threes, he can put pressure on the rim. So huge to get Truth Harris back. Also, Kyle, this is LaSalle's first D1 win since they beat Monmouth that opening week. I was at the opener against Coppin State, and then they played Monmouth that following Saturday. So LaSalle needed this one bad. Josiah Harris played great. He rose to the occasion, needed it, but just the Explorers in general, Kyle, really nice of them to get a win here. And then we'll touch on Drexel. Kyle, 24-70, 34% from the game, just 6 of 27 from 3, good for 22%. They're not going to win many games that Eli Beer doesn't score in because they need his ability to pass the ball, get into the paint, and kick out. But his ability to get by people and knock down threes as well, 0-9 on the game, 0-6 from 3. Look, it happens. Shots don't go down, but Drexel's had multiple games this year. We saw it Saturday. We also saw it Wednesday when they went down to D.C. and played American. They were up 13 at halftime. They were shooting the ball well. They end up losing that game. How about the Syracuse game? It's a close game at halftime. That second half, they only score 18 points and get run out a little bit by Syracuse. And then Shane Blakeney, 11 points, 4-16 from the field, 3-9 from the 3-point line. It's just when there's a scoring rut here, Kyle, when this happens, who can Drexel turn to get him a basket? Who can they turn to so that they don't have, a 1 for 22 from the field ends to the first half, that they don't have, an 0 for 16, 0 for 17 streak. And look, you can't control if the ball goes in or not, but when you have stretches like that, who can you put the ball in their hands and say, get to the free throw line, get to the basket, get us out of the rut here? When we need it bad, who can do that for us? So remains to be seen just with some inefficient nights, especially Saturday. But I told you, Kyle, Drexel would not have a problem with the size of LaSalle, with the whole rebound that John Mantra. They out-rebounded them 44-37. They grabbed 21 offensive rebounds. There was a lot of misses to be grabbed, Kyle, and they grabbed them. There just wasn't enough offense for a long stretch that when that lead balloons up to 19, Kyle, and you got to dig yourself out, which they did a great job of, they just haven't strung together 40 minutes at times this year. So Zach Spiker said it's kind of been a bugaboo for him this year, but unfortunately, again, Kyle, we're talking about Drexel not being able to put a whole 40 minutes together. It was a very good second 20. I'd even argue it was a pretty good first, 5-7. They started out 8 of 14 from the field. They just went, ice cold to end the first half. So LaSalle needed it. Drexel still's got to work on putting a full game together. But Kyle, the story I wrote for Mid-Major Madness after, 2 John Beeline guys here. Zach Spiker, when he was at West Virginia, hosted Darius Nichols, or was a part of a group that hosted Darius Nichols in his official visit. Darius even said afterwards that Spiker's a pretty big reason why he ended up going to West Virginia. So the two of them have been connected. Darius said it's great to have a guy like Spiker in the same city as him that can kind of get him up to speed on things and get him acclimated to the scene here. So cool little story I did for Mid-Major Madness on the two of these guys. Fierce competitors, but Zach Spiker made sure to say to Darius before the game, John Beeline's watching us now. And I'm sure he was very happy to see two of his former guys going at each other in the Big Five in the same city. So pretty cool storyline there to put a bow on a competitive game here at the end.
Yeah, we talked about the connections and we were talking about Alex Coffey's article, but just a cool thing, both of these guys coming from West Virginia, and now they're coaching the Big Five. It all comes back to the Big Five. But like you mentioned with Drexel, it's normal or fairly normal for teams to go through cold stretches during games or multiple games. It does happen. Like, it's not like it's, foreign, but we've seen some rough stretches from Drexel offensively this year. I mean, you mentioned the 18-point second half against Syracuse. The last time they played in this building, rough. There was some pretty rough stretches against Penn in that game at the DAC that we saw. And then this one as well, obviously the one for 22 to end a half. The fact that that's happened multiple times now in the first 4 weeks of the season, it's concerning. It's concerning. I mean, you think that Eli Beard, Shane Blakeney, put Josh Reed in that too, are probably the guys who are the, hey, go get us a bucket guys. But is that their main thing? Is that what, because there's some people, for example, Darian Ford, who we'll talk about in a little bit. I think that's someone you could say, hey, go get me a bucket. He's going to find a way to do it. He's either going to step outside, he's going to get crafty inside, he's going to play off 2 feet, he's going to drive the lane. He's going to find a way to get a basket. Obviously, Jamal Mashburn Jr. last year was the best example of that. He was one of the best bucket getters in the country. Eric Dixon, same breath. Not that they're going to have guys like that per se, but they had more guys like that last year with Deuce Drake, Yami Butler, some of these guys. And I don't know if that exists right now on the roster. And that might just be a struggle for them throughout the season. Maybe they'll find something. Maybe they'll tweak with the schematics a little bit. And they'll have the scheme guys open. Like you're talking about an NFL wide receiver, how they can get schemed open. They can sometimes don't just get open. Maybe that's something. But when they get to stretches like this, it's hard. It's hard to, fathom that they can go 1 for 22 to end a half. It's just what it is. So I hope that they can learn from these things early on and get ready by conference play, because I think that's obviously the most important thing. Not that this isn't. It's very important in the Big Five. That's why we exist as a podcast. But, it can be taken as a learning experience in this game, the Penn game, the Syracuse game, and all that to hopefully string together 2 good halves, 40 good minutes. All right, Cope. Speaking of those Temple Owls, tough defeat for them, but an elation for St. Joe's. A win at the buzzer by Deuce Jones on a step-back 3. The Hawks beat Temple 70-69 in the third-place game. Cope, the Big Five's most played rivalry, and we were kind of debating on what the actual number was, but we are going with 166 meeting between these two teams. Temple still leads the series. I believe it's 90-70-something in favor of Temple. But Deuce Jones obviously hit the game winner, 17 points in this one, scored 10 points in the last minute 52. He hit a 3, he hit a tough layup, and then obviously the step back winner. He had a couple free throws as well. Cope, I want you to hit on this person though, and obviously after this, get to the themes of the game, because it was a tightly contested game the entire way. Back and forth. St. Joe's was leading for, I think, a good chunk of it, but Temple also, never strayed too far behind, took the lead at one point. Obviously, they were up 5 with about 2 minutes to go before Deuce Jones carried St. Joe's home. But Justice Adjabor, 31 minutes in this game, first career double-double. He had 10 points, hit all 6 of his free throws and 3 blocks, and he became the 12th player in Hawks history to record 100 blocks. And that's obviously in, a season and a month of him being on Hawk Hill. So pretty impressive there. But Cope, you mentioned last episode that Justice Adjabor was going to be a reason that they were going to win this game if they were going to win this game. How did you see it playing out? Because you obviously had a little bit crystal ball there, even though you picked Temple, but you said if St. Joe's was going to win, it's going to be partially because of him.
I think I'm good for something, right? I think I watched these teams enough that I maybe have a little inkling here and there one way or another. But look, Temple, not a huge team. Baba Dordola got in foul trouble again, fouled out in an even shorter amount of time than he did on Monday. We'll get into that. But it was because of his foul trouble where, Jemai felt they put Mokita in there for a little bit. Ayuba Bryant played for, a good chunk of this game, but is a 6'9", maybe like 4. I don't think Ayuba Bryant's maybe a guy they're going to trot out at the 5 a ton. Certainly gives you that option. I think could maybe play some forward spots as well. But the bottom line is you're going against a giant human. I mean, you look at Justice Ajabo, man. They don't have shorts or a shirt big enough for him. Guy's been in college for 5 years. He's massive. It's hard for anybody to just man for man go up with him, across any opponent they'll see this year. But with the lack thereof size and just brute force inside that Temple has, your starting center gets in foul trouble. This is the perfect opportunity for Justice Ajabo to have a big time impact on the game. Throw in it's a Temple team that wants to get to the rim. And it ended up being the perfect storm for him. First time all year he's played over 20 minutes. He played 31 in this game. 6 of 6 from the free throw line is massive, though, Kyle. That can't be understated. But how about, guys played a lot of basketball. I know he had a couple injury-ridden seasons at Harvard. And then, last year he was healthy pretty much all throughout here. Shocking that that's his first one, his first double-double with 10 points and 11 boards. But he made his presence felt, obviously, the 3 blocks. And, Kyle, the 12th guy all time to hit 100 blocks is a Hawk, and to do it in the short time that he's done it in is really, really
impressive.
Really, really impressive. Plus, you see how his teammates talk about him, and you hear him in the press conferences. What a nice dude for it to happen to as well, to have a big time game like that and have a big time impact on the game. So happy for Just Sajba, but can't bury the lead here, Kyle. I mean, Deuce Jones, onions, Kyle. Onions. The 166th serving of onions in this all-time series here. But Kyle, 7 points in the first 38 minutes. And then he had 10 in the last 2 minutes. He banked in a 3. He had a very tough layup. He almost fell down making the last layup. And then, of course, gets that ball. They go under. Steve Donahue said in the press conference, said to Deuce in the timeout, I was like, they might go under. You might just have to take the 3 if you can't get to the basket. There's not enough time. And I don't know how he hit that one either. I mean, he almost fell down on that layup. If that were me, man, I'm clumsy. I would have stumbled over my feet, though. He did. For him to stop on a dime, kind of awkward, have to stop. Really tough shot over an outstretched Ayuba Bryant. Man, what a shot. What a moment. A true buzzer beater as time expired. Electric, Kyle. But for that game, Temple had the ESPN winning percentage. Temple was almost at 90% there. Jordan Mason knocks down 2 free throws as a 2-point game, and what a shot! What a shot by Deuce. How can you not love the Big Five, Kyle? How can you not love the Big Five? Great finish. I mean, when that game when Temple kind of had him maybe dead to rights a little bit. 10 points in 2 minutes is crazy, especially with a banked-in 3. And the banked-in 3 was almost as tough as the game winner that he hit. So incredible performance by Deuce Jones to put the team on his back. But he's a dog, man. That's what he does. That term gets thrown around a lot. Deuce Jones is a dog. I can say that with confidence that he is wanted the ball in his hands, a guy that Steve trusts even early on in his St. Joe's tenure. And man, what a shot, but what a performance that last couple of minutes to snatch victory from the jaws of defeat, Kyle.
Yeah. And Cope, I said this to Riley Frayne as we were going to the press conference. If I had a nickel for every time buzzer beater in the third place game happened, I would have 10 cents, which isn't a lot of money, but it's weird that it happened twice. So pretty cool. 2 times in 3 years that we saw a buzzer beater in the third place game. One by LaSalle, one by a former LaSalle player. So pretty cool. But also, just real quick, I want to touch on a couple of performers for Temple as well, because I don't want their performances to get lost in this. Darian Ford, 27 points within a career high, 7 of 15 from the field. And then Gavin Griffiths was awesome as well. 15 points, all on threes. He was just firing all of his field goal attempts were threes.
Yeah, 5 of 11 from 3, 5 of 11 from the field.
Yep, beautiful. Also 3 steals and 5 blocks, which is pretty incredible. He was really, really good. And then Aiden Tobias in a little bit disappointing, 3 of 10 from the field. He had a not so great game. But he's been awesome for Temple, obviously, this year. So it's okay to cut him a little slack. But listen, this game was awesome. The best quality of game of the day. And it ended in the best finish of the day, for sure. But Cope, we have one more game to talk about, Big Five Championship. You mentioned it earlier. It was a rough game. It was a rough game. Villanova ran away with it, 90-63 for their first Big Five Classic championship, but their 29th overall Big Five title, their 17th outright. They're the first team to reach 29, broke a tie with Temple. The last time that Villanova won was when they split with Temple in the last iteration of the old Big Five in 2022-23, first year of this podcast. So they are back in Big Five glory. Duke Brennan was the Jack Shore VGH award winner, which if you don't know, VGH means very good hoops. It's what Jack Shore used to write down on his notepad when covering games. And of course, this story has been told many times by our friend Aaron Bracey. His son was there to help him give out. Jack Shore's son was there to help him give out the award at the end. But Duke Brennan, runaway victor in this. 15 points on 7 or 10 from the field, 10 rebounds, third double-double of the season there. He was fantastic. He really set the tone to start this game. And then some other good performers as well. Devin Askew, 17 points on 7 of 12. Bryce Lindsey, 18 points. A lot was later in the second half when they were kind of pulling away, but still 5 of 7 from the field, 5 of 6 from 3. Caden Lewis, 9 points and 7 assists as well. The flip side of that for Penn, they were keeping up for a lot of the first half. They were making threes. Obviously, we mentioned the one thing, if they were going to stay in this game, was going to be from three-pointer because Villanova's not good at defending it. But Ethan Roberts, early in the second half, gets hurt. Goes down with what we learned is a jaw, potentially neck injury. I think it happened away from the ball. He was actually called for a foul in the play, but he ended up going to the hospital. We don't know anything from that. We have not heard about that since Fran McCaffrey said this at the press conference after the game on Saturday. He did not play in Monday night's win over Lafayette, was not on the bench as well. It seemed like it might be an indefinite thing. Not that I want to speculate, but at the time of the press conference on Saturday, obviously it's still fresh. They did not know. So something to monitor there, but he only played 15 minutes before that happened. TJ Power and Michael Zanoni had 12 points each, or 11 points each, excuse me, but it was a struggle. It was a struggle for Penn. They could not keep up with Villanova in this one, and Villanova, their first Big Five Classic victory. Cope, I know it's not a lot around the game because it was a dominant victory for Villanova, but your thoughts on the Big Five Classic Championship?
Yeah, obviously really scary what happened to Ethan Roberts, and we hope he's okay. Like you said, I was not at the game, obviously, but I was watching on ESPN Plus Lafayette Penn tonight, which is a wicked turnaround. I mean, now you're talking about not even 48 hours to have to turn around and play a game. But regardless, very, very scary. I hope everything is okay. The reaction on the court seemed like something was really bad, even the Villanova coaches that were asking for the Penn trainers to come over there. So scary, and we hope that Ethan Roberts is okay. But as far as the game goes, Kyle, this was close for a little bit. Cam Thrower had a really nice game. But at the end of the day, Kyle, Duke Brennan, 15 points, 7 of 10 from the field. He had 10 rebounds. So he did his thing. You mentioned a Devin Askew and a Bryce Lindsey that really poured it on late, but 15 to 31 from the three-point line as a team, Kyle. Really, really hard to beat a team when they make 15 threes and they shoot that well from behind the line. So you saw a glimpse of what Villanova could be. I mean, hey, when you have Devin Askew putting up numbers like that now that he's pretty much healthy on no minutes restrictions and he's good to go, like Caden Lewis, another, maybe he only had 9 points and didn't pour in 18 like Bryce Lindsey or 17 like Devin Askew, but another 7 assists as well, doing his thing, being the maestro here. So very good all-around team performance, Kyle. Unfortunate with Ethan Roberts' injury. Maybe there was a little win that got taken out of Penn sales when that happened. TJ Power, Mike Zanoni, who's going to be very, very critical for Penn. If Ethan Roberts is to miss extended time, he's going to be big. He had 11 points in this one. But after maybe 15 minutes, Kyle, maybe 3/4 of the first half, we got it. Ended up being Villanova's night. They hung a banner. First of the Big Five Classic. New iteration, as you said, and again, 29th title, 17th outright in a 90-63 win for him. So when Villanova's firing on all cylinders, Kyle, not that we didn't know this already. Maybe we haven't seen them play the quality of opponent that they did when they played BYU opening night, but Villanova at their finest hour, firing on all cylinders. Pretty good basketball team, Kyle. And Kevin Willard on a 4-game win streak now against Fran McCaffery. He was on a 3-game win streak at Maryland. Can add another one here. Now 5-7 all time against Fran McCaffery, which also 6 of those were at Siena when Fran McCaffery was there and Willard was IO. And I asked Kevin Willard about that after. He said, I get nightmares thinking about those teams with Ronald Moore, with Double Onions, with those teams that me and Riley split an article on this championship game here and kind of delved into Kevin Willard and Fran McCaffery's relationship. Kyle, those Siena teams were not just trying to win the MAC. They wanted to go in a tournament and win. And they did.
I remember them being an 8 seed one year. Like
2 years they made the round of 32. Those were good teams, and Kevin Willard, almost 20 years after the fact, Kyle still gets nightmares. But Kevin Willard now 5-7 all time against his good friend Fran McCaffery. But yeah, Kyle, this Villanova team, we'll touch on who they're going to play this week. We'll see how it's a big litmus test, a big measuring stick game for them. But when they're playing at their best, pretty damn good basketball team, Kyle.
Yeah. And I think for some people in bracketology, obviously, the AP poll and the reset that happens on Monday before the week that is in college basketball. So some people have them on the first 4 outline, which I think, honestly, a little higher than I thought right now, just because the lack of quality opponent outside of BYU. But they've, for not a lack of a better term, but more or less dominated the competition that's been in front of them, which is important. A dominant Big Five showing for them this year. Their average margin of victory was 20. Beat LaSalle by 15, beat Temple by 18, beat Penn by 27. Pretty good. Wasn't even there were moments in, well, not really LaSalle game, but the other 2 games, there were moments where the other teams were in it. They ended up pulling away. So a dominant stretch of Big Five play here for Villanova, something we haven't seen in a few years. So they're back as well. But yes, Cope, they are about to find out. Bottom line, they're about to find out because their next test is traveling to Ann Arbor to play Michigan, the number 2 team in the country in the AP poll, the number 1 team in the country in every analytical website, every analytical model. They've won 4 straight games by 40 points. And that does not include teams like Queens or Old Dominion, no offense to them, or anybody like that. Their last 2 games have come against Gonzaga in the Players Era Championship, and
they just beat Rutgers by 40.
They just beat Rutgers by 40 to start Big Ten play. And who was before? I can't remember for the life of me.
So they thrashed San Diego State, my San Diego State Aztecs. Made me upset. And then they played Auburn, thrashed Auburn, and then they played Gonzaga, who just beat the crap out of Maryland. Just Gonzaga, I know this was after the fact, just beat the crap out of Kentucky down in Nashville. Gonzaga seemed to be everybody's darling. And then Michigan showed everybody why they should be the team to beat. And they just disposed of them, Kyle. I mean, it was a total beatdown. And that's a Gonzaga team that's average age like 24, almost my age.
Yeah.
And they just beat the crap out of them.
They're number 3 in the country in D1 experience at 2.72 years.
And that's Gonzaga?
That's Gonzaga.
Yeah, and they just thrashed them. You would have thought it was the reverse.
Yeah.
You would have thought it was the reverse. Couple points here I want to make on these Michigan Wolverines, Kyle. So first of all, a guy that we've seen, Yaxel Lendeborg, Kyle, is the 4th ranked player in the country according to KenPom. 4th. This dude has missed 4 shots from 2-point ranges here. 4. He has made the transition seamlessly. He's as good as they come. He's a load to have to, worry about driving to the basket, obviously, because he doesn't miss them till 3-point, shot has improved. And then you look at the big guys they have. First of all, Yaxel's a big guy. And you look at the other 2 guys they brought in this year. I'm a big Mick Cronin guy. I watched a lot of UCLA last year. I'm a big fan of Adai Mara. His turnover percentage is a little high. But first of all, he's 7'3". Okay, 7'3". Anchors the best 2-point defense in the country. And in addition to that, obviously he's going to hit the boards. but a good passer as well. Again, this turnover is a bit of an issue for this Michigan team. I saw them play TCU earlier this year. They turned the ball over 22 times. They couldn't stop giving it away. They still found a way to win that game in really ugly fashion on the road. But Adai Mara is great. I was always a big fan of him at UCLA. Top-ranked defense, according to Ken Pom, second best effective field goal percentage, 18th best block percentage, thanks to not only Adai Mara, you have a big fellow like Yaxel Lendeborg as well, but Kyle, that's a lot of size with Yaxel Lendeborg and Adai Mara. And then you throw in the fact that you have a guy like Morez Johnson who comes over from Illinois, a very good offensive rebounder, a rebounder in his own right. He's 6'9". At multiple times in a game, they will have they'll have lineups here where they're putting Morez Johnson, Adai Mara, and Yaxel on the court at the same time. That's a whole lot of size to have to deal with three big fellas like that. That's kind of what helped them get back into that TCU game and bring it home. Was Morez Johnson's play against that TCU team that I watched this year. That was very early on in the year. But they have a very fast point guard in Elliot Cadeau, a guy in Amari Burnett, very good three-point shooter. I don't know how the guy's still in college. Really, he's been in college forever. But it's a big team. Great guard play. Obviously, Dusty May, Kyle, was one of the I'm telling you, Kyle, Dusty May we're going to look back on Dusty May. He'll be one of the 10 best hires of maybe the decade so far. At Michigan, that can be a really good basketball school. John Beilein made a championship game here, the Fab Five.
Two championship games.
This is the guy that is gonna bring him back. I think he's that good. The team is that good. They killed the transfer portal. I'll give you another guy to look at here, Kyle. Offensively, very good 3-point shooting team. You know who's helping him out? Freshman Trey McKinney. Got some nice size. Gives him a nice shooter off the bench as well. There is so much to like about this team, Kyle. Obviously, they're beating the crap out of teams, beating the crap out of good ones as well. But top to bottom, whether it's returners, it's transfer guys, you have a spectacular coach in Dusty May. This is a really good team, Kyle. It is a big team as well. I mentioned those three guys: Johnson, Lendeborg, Mara. How about Will Shetter coming off the bench as well? Who Namari Burnett and Will Shetter are guys that Phil Martelli coached when he was on Juwan Howard's staff there. So much to like about this team, Kyle. Yes, they're undefeated and they're pulverizing teams, Kyle. Not even just beating them. But man, I know it's early. You don't want to peak too early. I don't think this team will. They really have it all. They really do. They check so many boxes as a team that it can legitimately, make a Final Four, cut the Nets down this year. And not to mention, on a streak this hot, beating teams this badly, not having lost the game, Kyle. Villanova going on the road. Ken Pom has us as a 15-point game. I've seen the line is 15.5 some places. We will find out a lot about this Villanova team. We're recording Monday night. Tomorrow night, we're going to find out a lot about these Villanova Wildcats, Kyle. You want a tough game?
This is a tough game.
You're going to find it here.
This is about as tough as it gets. And a top 53-point shooting team as well, with all the other stats that you mentioned, Cope. Obviously, we've talked a lot about Villanova's 3-point defense, so that's something to look out for, too. Duke Brennan's going to get tested in this game with all that size.
He's going to be massive. I know that's saying that the best rebounder in the country needs to have a good game is not rocket science here, Kyle, but he needs to stay out of foul trouble, and there's a whole lot of size here.
There is.
He's going to have to go up against.
There is. And actually, another site that we love, evanmia.com, great analytic website. They have player ratings as well. They have Yaxel at number 2 behind Cam Boozer. And actually, the gap is pretty significant from other people. So it's rated by BPR, which is Bayesian Performance Rating, sum of a player's offensive and defensive ratings, essentially. So they have Cam Boozer at 12.55. They have Yaxel at 11.97. And then the next player after that is Braden Smith at 10.3. And then the next player after that is Joshua Jefferson at 9.19. So the gap between those two and then Braden Smith and then everyone else is pretty significant. That's how good of a player Yaxel Lendeborg is. So, Lendeborg, excuse me. But it's going to be a tough match. It's going to be a tough game for them. And then, not to look too far ahead, but after that, home against Pittsburgh and then at semi-away at Wisconsin. So, and then they start conference play. So now Now it's going to ramp up. Now we're going to find out a little bit more about this Villanova team. They're going to need to correct some things. They've been great in other facets as well. So, yeah, we're going to find out. And then, Cope, one other result before we sign off here. I know we're going a little bit long, but as we mentioned with Penn playing Lafayette on Monday night with a 74-72 victory without Ethan Roberts, Penn's bigs, Augustus Gerhardt, 15 points and a new career high, had all of it in the first half. Dalton Scantlebury had 14 points on 6 of 9. AJ Levine had a bounce-back game, 8 points, 8 assists, 5 rebounds, hit 2 threes. TJ Power as well, leading the way, 15 points and 9 rebounds. You watched this game, Cope, admittedly. I did not. I was having some family stuff, family dinner and whatnot. But what did you see from Penn in this one? Bounce-back game and a quick turnaround, like you mentioned.
Yeah, very, very quick turnaround. Not even 48 hours here, but it was a pretty start to the game. Up 22-6 at one point. That 16 points is the highest lead they would get it to. But there's a close game at the end. And if not for a close call at the end, there was a play with maybe 4 or 5 seconds left. TJ Power takes a shot at the end of the clock. I did not think it hit the rim live. The refs did not blow the whistle. On the replay, didn't look like the ball hit the rim. And Lucas Luth was able to get the rebound, kick it out. Cam Thrower makes 1 or 2 free throws. And Penn holds on here as Augie Gerhardt walled up very nicely on a Lafayette player driving to the basket. But they held on. Again, they're missing Ethan Roberts, but it wasn't pretty all the time. But the defense was very, very good at times. Offensively, AJ Levine did a little bit of everything. There's a Lafayette team, Kyle. They don't have a lot of size. They also have 2 freshmen that are playing a lot of the big man minutes. I saw him St. Joe's opening night, but you have Sharif Jackson, start at center, and then you have Luke Bevilacqua, another freshman. He played at the George School. Kyle, how about this? He played for Ben Luber. So he went against his former coach today, playing Ben Luber, of course, the assistant coach at Penn. So cool for Luke Bevilacqua to have to play up against them. But you have 2 freshmen that are playing a bulk of the center minutes here, Kyle. And it's just not a very big team anyway. St. Joe's had their way with them, especially in the first half opening night. But good to see Penn's bigs take care of business. Super, super efficient. Augie Gerhardt, no points in the second half, still set a career high. So good for him. AJ Levine did a little bit of everything too. TJ Power had a nice day. But Lucas Luth, great impact on the defensive end today. They're going to need his shot blocking. They're going to need his switch ability. He's going to be big on the defensive end. Guys like Cam Thor, Mike Zanoni, you're going to have to pick up the slack, for however long Ethan Roberts is out. But those 3 guys caught my eye, especially Lucas Luth. Thought this was one of his, if not his best game in a Penn uniform. So good win. Ends the fall semester for them. They get a couple non-conference games up. They're going to go to George Mason. They're going to go to Rutgers at the rack. I'm going to try to get there. Then they're home on New Year's Eve against NJIT. And before we know it, Kyle, Penn, 3 more non-conference games, and then conference play starts, and we're in phase 2 of the season. So
most of these teams, yeah,
there's
a few more.
Crazy. It's a lot of people. Quite a few teams have already played conference games, but we're moving right along, Kyle. This week, by the way, I'll be at St. Joe's tomorrow for Coppin State St. Joe's. I haven't been to Hagen Arena since we were there for Drexel St. Joe's the first week of the year. So I looked it out on my calendar. I said, all right, I got to get back to Hagen. It's been a while. And then Saturday, Pittsburgh at Villanova. Regardless of the result Tuesday, Kyle, Villanova really needs that one because Pittsburgh is starting to reel a little bit. They lost at home to Quinnipiac, and then they just lost at home to Hofstra. Cruz Davis went off.
Yeah.
But this Pittsburgh team reeling.
Hofstra makes some noise in the CAA.
Absolutely. Not taking anything away from Speedy Claxton and the pride in a big-time bounce back.
They still lost a bye game in Pittsburgh. So
yeah. Not to mention they lost at home to Texas A&M the game before as well, who just took a loss to SMU last night. So there's a Pittsburgh team currently outside the top 100 at Ken Palm at 109. So regardless of what happens, look, power conference opponent, awesome. Do a home and home. Villanova is going to go there next year, but I'll be there Saturday, 4:30 p.m. Again, regardless of what happens Tuesday, nobody's going to punish you for losing to Michigan. I promise you. Nobody will be like, how dare you do that?
But if they win that game, Cope.
But if you win that game,
you're looking at an at-large team potentially.
You can't cancel your progress out with a loss to a Pittsburgh team that's dropped a couple that they shouldn't have.
No. If they win that game, though, there's going to be some momentum on the main line. I'll tell you that much.
Oh, yeah.
Cope, I will not be at any games this week. I will also not be at any games next week. I'm going away. Second time, I've never been to Europe before this year. Second time this year I'm going to Europe, although 11 months apart, but I'm going to Paris and Amsterdam with my fiance. So very excited for that. Of course, that means, thank you, thank you, thank you. Of course, that means that we will not be recording until I get back. So we wanted to make sure we got done this episode to talk about the Big Five Classic, but to beat the results of it, the circumstances around it, of course, everything around that. So yeah, it's going to be a little bit, I believe our next episode will probably come out right before Thanksgiving, or not Thanksgiving, excuse me. I'm always thinking about Thanksgiving, right before Christmas. So be on the lookout for that. It will be a couple weeks, but of course you can always follow us on Twitter. Cope will be probably doing the bulk of the updates there. But for anything, and his coverage as well, make sure you follow him at JCopestick. Follow us at Big Five Pod on Instagram as well. And then if you want to look back at some of these episodes, of course, why not? Come to our YouTube as you're seeing this, and if you're listening and want to listen only, go to our audio only versions, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Also, go on TikTok, because we have a TikTok now, like I mentioned last episode. We'll repost our short form clips. I also have another kind of behind the scenes video coming, probably one of the days after this releases or the day this releases. I still have to edit that, from the Big Five Classic, and anything else we post on there as well. So trying to build up our presence on there too. Cope, any final thoughts before we sign off?
Nope. I did enough yapping, very eloquently done by you, to promote all our channels. I'll hold it down. Have fun in Europe, and we will see you when you get back.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Thank you all for tuning in as always. And see you in a little bit. Also, happy Hanukkah to my fellow Jews out there. Happy Hanukkah, because that'll start when I'm away as well. Yeah, we'll see you next time.